We're going to switch back over to the NFL and do around the league for week 10. And we're going to start with a highly anticipated matchup that we also picked incorrectly. It seemed like it was going well for most of the game there, but the Browns were able to complete a comeback against the Baltimore Ravens. Not a super impressive first half for Deshaun Watson. I think at one point he was 1 for 9, but he was able to turn it around. Browns defense came up with some big plays later in the game, pick six, and they ended up with a game-winning field goal, winning 33-31. And now they're really just half a game behind the Baltimore Ravens at 6-3, whereas the Ravens fall down to 7-3 in the highly competitive NFC North.
Yeah, this is a very AFC North type of game where these two teams kind of, one of them comes out strong and another one starts to fight back and ends really close through a lot of defensive struggle. We thought we had the Ravens pick on this one, and then the Ravens kind of slowly stalled out. They were up like 17-0 pretty early, 17-3, something like that, and they lost it, kind of slowly let it slip away. Browns come up with a win, pretty big one. Speaking of the AFC North, the Bengals also played football this past weekend. They went on a hot streak. They had 4 in a row. That ends now as the Houston Texans come out. C.J. Stroud and company fight back. Ended up winning 30-27. Stroud got his team down where they needed to be for a game-winning field goal opportunity. Both these games had two of the 6 game-winning field goals as time expired that happened this week. So I have a lot of pretty close, fun games. Texans just played good football here. C.J. Stroud had a few turnover issues in the game, but was able to recover. And he and Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell put on a show, and the defense did just enough to keep Joe Burrow held down. Both these teams now at 5-4. Bengals were trying to make a run for that AFC North. That's going to hurt a lot. Texans, however, starting to look at the Jaguars, not too far behind them at all, just one game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody really expected the Texans overall to be this good. I think, CJ Stroud, I don't think we expected him to be like MVP type level, throwing for 300, 400, 500 yards a game. But I think out of both, the top quarterbacks in the NFL draft this year, we expected big things. Obviously, it hasn't been the case for Bryce Young just yet, but CJ, he's definitely thrust himself in the MVP conversations because the only thing that would really be holding him back would be the record for the Texans. If the Texans were to miss the playoffs, you're not going to win MVP. But that is one thing that we did call. We did say that the Texans, they had a decent chance of getting into the playoffs. And since then, CJ Stroud's played unbelievably well, even better than he was when we made that prediction. So not super surprising there. The Bengals, though, that's unfortunate for them because now they're sitting on the outside looking in just the same way they did to the Bills last week. Then we're going to move to a game that should have been on national TV, but for whatever reason was not. The Chargers and the Lions. The Chargers, once again, seems like it's the same thing over and over and over with this team. They lose a very high-scoring game, 41-38. This one's on a last-second field goal. I don't really know. You can give all the props in the world to the Lions, but I don't know what you can really say to Chargers fans at this point. How many times can you have games where you lose by 3, 4, 5 points, maybe even less, and your defense allows 500-something yards? You just cannot win games like this. And I know this is just one game. It's not the absolute end of the world, but you're 4-5 right now. You're on the outside looking in. If they don't make the playoffs, or if they have a first round exit, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Staley's out of there.
Yeah, this one is another Brandon Staley disaster class where you lose by 3 or 2 or somewhere within a 1-score range. Maybe it may not even be quite a touchdown. The Lions, a good football team. We know that they're 7-2. They've had good wins throughout the season. They put up 41 points in this game, but they do allow 38. But as a Chargers fan, right, you can't even feel comfortable in that your team put up 38 points because it's never safe. And against a team like the Lions, it gets really exploited, that it's not quite going to work out. They come out and get a massive win, 41-38, another game-winning field goal. Just in the Chargers home with a loss, and they are not looking good in their division. And the problem is that the AFC is really, really tight right now. It's probably going to be hard for the Chargers to squeak in unless they can get up to be second in that division and beat out almost the whole AFC North. So A little bit of a panic mode for LA starting to settle in. Speaking of panic mode, the New York Giants played football again against the Cowboys this season, and it went maybe better than last time, I guess. I don't know. They scored 17 points instead of 0, so props to Tommy DeVito and the rest of the Giants that are healthy. However, in the first game, the Cowboys scored 40. They scored 49 this time. And last time, it's kind of a defensive beatdown. This time, Dak Prescott, Brandon Cooks, and CeeDee Lamb put on a show. And I know you can say whatever you want. Oh, it's against the Giants. I get it. For some reason, they play against the Giants as if like their life depended on it, and have put up 89 points, I guess, in the season. They've beat the Giants a collective 89-17 this season. So this one, if you were a Cowboys fan, I'm sure it was great to watch. If you were a Giants fan, maybe you felt it coming and you didn't really care. This one is rough for the Giants. I would say it's panic mode for the Giants, but I think they've been panicking since week 1. And the Cowboys needed probably a little bit of a continued morale booster. We'll see if this helps them as they move forward. But definitely need this win to keep staying in line and competitive with the Eagles, who had a bye this week. They squeak a little closer because of that. Yeah, you can't really. I don't know what to say about the Giants. Tommy DeVito in. It's not ideal. He's third string quarterback, and not the Brock Purdy style. But Cowboys, I mean, like, what more can you ask for? I guess.
Yeah, I mean they won the game, so like, no, what did anybody else really expect here? Uh, they beat the mess out of them, 40-0. First game of the season, Sunday Night Football, with their starting quarterback. You got Tommy DeVito in there, third string now. What did they really expect here? Obviously, they put up more points and they allowed more points, but the point differential was obviously not as big. But yeah, nothing about this game surprised me. That's why it shouldn't have been on national TV in the first place. I guess the Cowboys, but like the Giants were 2-7 coming into it. They already put a whooping on the first time. I didn't need to see this again. So thankfully, we hopefully won't have to see the Giants in any kind of prime time situation for the rest of the season, if it can be helped. Now we're going to move over to another team that it's always doing something interesting. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They once again find a way to win 23-19 over the Packers, who are just they're bad. I don't think I've seen the Packers be this bad in my lifetime, to be honest with you. And it doesn't really seem to be getting better. This one, Steelers. I told you this. We were talking about this during the game. They ran the ball pretty well in this game, but generally the offense, we've said enough. We don't have to keep talking about it over and over. Offense has been amazing. It's really been the defense that's been winning them these games. But if the offense can just be better, a little bit better, if they can run the ball, Najee ran the ball pretty well, but Jalen Warren ran it really well. And if Kenny Pickett can just be more accurate, be a little bit better, outside of he can get clutch in the fourth quarter, but he needs to be clutched up throughout the rest of the game. The Steelers team can be really good because that defense is darn good. They always getting takeaways, always forcing the issue, being able to get plays. I mean, they just have to have an offense that's more consistent. And I still don't think Matt Canada is that guy to do it, but maybe coming down on the sideline these past couple games has actually helped them do something.
Yeah, it seems to help a little bit. Their offense still isn't like the most amazing thing ever to watch, but they squeak out a win against the bad Packers, 23-19. Steelers find themselves at 6-3, very competitive in their division, and Packers find themselves at 3-6. Packers and Bears definitely starting to slip away into obscurity this season. Bears did get a win against the Panthers this week, but the Vikings have been hot. The Lions are on fire, and the Packers are 3-6. They're probably out of it. Jordan Love has just not played very well, except for the first game in the season against the Bears. I think he just had to kind of carry on the legacy. But yeah, this one was a good win for the Steelers. I guess their defense has still been good, but yeah, that offense, talked about it a lot. It's not the most ideal thing to have out there as a coach, but maybe it'll get somewhere. From there, we're going to move to the NFC South, except not in a good way. Kyler Murray returns for the Cardinals and leads his squad, who at the time were 1-8, to a win against Arthur Smith's Falcons. They win 25-23. Another one of those late game walk-offs. Kyler Murray played well. Had some good running, good rushes in the game. Passed well. Falcons did not play a bad football game, but do end up losing to the Cardinals. It is kind of a reminder that despite everything that's been happening, the Cardinals aren't like horrible. They're not the most atrocious thing if Kyler Murray can play at his peak. I don't know how long his peak will last. He did just return, came in pretty hot. Falcons maybe have a pretty good defense, so that's a good way to start your return. I'm not sure what the Cardinals will do draft wise if Kyler Murray brings them in and picks up a few wins because they're still not quite like a competing level team. But they're interesting. Falcons, maybe not really time to panic. They're 4-6, but their division is not like super great. The Buccaneers are 4-5 after their win. The Saints lose to the Vikings and they're 5-5. The Panthers are just not something to be worried about right now. So Falcons take a loss, but it's not really a season-ending loss or a panic mode loss because of the division they're in. And the Cardinals, it's a flavor win, I guess. They're 2-8 now. They have a lot of work to do, even just to get back to finish 9-8. They'd have to win out. So I don't expect that to happen. But at least there's a little sliver of hope that Kyler Murray, back from his injury, can still play good football.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, going back to whenever they paid Kyler, did he really deserve that money? Should he have gotten it? Blah, blah, blah. And now coming into this season, he's injured. He's going to miss like half the season. Everybody expects the Cardinals to be god awful. Record wise, they are obviously, but they had been better, on the field than we thought. And that might be in part to Josh Dobbs, who's now in Minnesota. But yeah, it's an interesting scenario over there. Obviously, they're not making the playoffs, but I guess it just kind of depends on how Kyler looks. If he still looks pretty good, then maybe they'll say, we'll still stick with him. Because this is kind of what we talk about with Daniel Jones. You just paid him. Daniel Jones literally just got paid, and they're talking about possibly moving on because of he's injured right now. He hasn't played well. It's like dang, you just if one bad season is enough for you to move on from a guy that you literally just paid, then I don't think you should have paid him in the first place. So if that's a discussion that they're still going to have with Kyler, then maybe they made a mistake. But I think if he plays well, at least shows he can play well. I'm not expecting him to do much of anything this season again, but I think he can still secure that spot, and I think they can try to move forward with him. And speaking of moving forward, Monday Night Football, the Broncos, they somehow they've done it. They beat the Buffalo Bills, and I think it is legitimately panic mode for the Bills at this point. 5-5. They're outside the playoffs, definitely, again, as they were after that Bengals game. And it's rough. The last play, field goal for the Broncos, they had 12 men on the field. They were to kick the game-winning field goal off of that and get the 24-22 win. Not a super impressive game for the Broncos. It was a good game, but nothing crazy there. It's really the interceptions from Josh Allen. Once again, I don't know how many times we have to keep talking about this. It's almost as much as the Steelers thing at this point. With him, it's weekly. Bad interceptions in bad spots. It's just disappointing for them. I mean, these guys were expecting Super Bowl, at least divisional conference championship. Try to get revenge against the Bengals, and it don't even look like. Right now, they do not look like a team that's even playoff worthy, let alone Super Bowl worthy.
Yeah, man, it's bad picks, bad football. The handoff to James Cook towards the end, he just straight up drops the ball on the ground before being sure that James Cook has it because he puts it up in his chest. Did that again earlier in the game, but it wasn't a fumble. Cook would fumble on the first drive, first play there. Anyway, that was a pass to him. I don't know, man. Bad penalties. Ken Dorsey ended up getting fired today. So Bills, we talk a lot about panic mode. Bills are in panic mode. They just lost to Mr. Unlimited. Russell Wilson comes through. They don't even go crazy on offense. They just do enough to stay alive. get their team in place for a game-winning field goal. On which the Bills continue to do tomfoolery. The Will Lutz misses, but there's 12 men on field for the Bills, so they get to move up 5 yards and try again, and he sinks it perfectly. And they win 24-22. They now move to 4-5, which interestingly enough is actually a place to be competitive in their division. The Chargers are 4-5 and the Raiders are 5-5. So obviously the Chiefs are higher up. They just had a bye week as well. They're sitting pretty comfortably at 7-2. If something shakes in the AFC and one of these teams can squeak in over an AFC North team, the Broncos are now looking at, hey, there's a chance we can make that run. We can get in, and they probably, I don't know, have a slightly more realistic chance than the Bills here if it comes down to tiebreakers and things like that, depending on how these two seasons play out. I don't know. Broncos have tightened it up. They took a 70-point thrashing from the Dolphins. Of course, people are going to think about that all season. They've generally played decent football since that week. The past 3 weeks, they have beaten the Chiefs, Bills, and Packers. They moved to 4-5. So panic mode for the Bills. Things are going to go wrong here. Ken Dorsey is gone. Sean McDermott may be on his way out, depending on how things go. And Stephon Diggs is always in a rumor of, is he going to stay there or not? If they have another bad season, especially if they miss the playoffs, I think he might be gone. So this one is a kind of a season-defining and era-defining loss for the Bills as the Broncos just exploit them in a bunch of mistakes. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson come through, pick up a big win.